So, the basic gist of it is that Age of Mythology is a pretty typical AoE style, more complex Warcraft 2 style, early 3D RTS, but done very good. It's a great game, works just fine on Windows X. There is also a basic extended edition release, which they tried to turn into an add-on mill just like they did with AoE 2 HD. That didn't work for some reason. EE has a bigger FOV, offers a lot of minor QOL, and a DLC, which is not present here. So again, in definitive edition. There are only 3, 4, 5 races, but they are very different from each other, and can be further customized by choosing, mixing, and matching the major and minor gods. So, in many cases different sets are as different as fully separate races in AoE 2. Instead of the typical triangle of cavalry, archers, infantry, where either heavy cavalry or archers always win, this game runs on a normal, hero, myth triangle. While there is still the classic triangle present, its counter bonuses basically do not matter. Meanwhile, the mythical triangle is about as impactful as counters in CNC. Heroes properly melt mythical units. Even mass archers, heroes receive significantly reduced damage from myths. Meanwhile, heroes are just average at best against other heroes and normal units. Mythical units properly eat buildings and humans. They have takedowns on cooldowns, and they are equally happy to pick up and throw away a basic swordsman or a fully armored horseman together with his horse. But they cost a separate new resource, which is generated differently by the different factions. You know, just like in that Warcraft 3 clone that came out before Warcraft 3. All units cost extra pop, but you can increase the pop cap above 200 by converting more neutral cities into your town centers. Greek Pantheon is kinda similar to Age of Empires. There's the food drop-off building. There's the gold plus wood drop-off building. Each type of soldiers is trained in their dedicated building. You assign peasants to bow at a temple to get mana. You get a small number of strong regenerating heroes, 1 per original Age. Egyptian Pantheon is a bit more like Age of Kings. Each resource has a dedicated drop-off building. And heroes are just healing monks, so you can have a lot of them. They are very bad against anything but myth units, obviously. But then the basic buildings don't cost anything, and advanced buildings, including farms, cost gold. The mana is generated only from 5 dedicated buildings, each more expensive than another. They have at least one pharaoh, who is an improved monk, who also can boost buildings, production ones or resource drop-off sites. Raz monks also can boost buildings, so you can waste pop to attach a monk to every structure. Norse Pantheon is the most original one. All resources are dropped off into mobile carts, which were added to AoE 2DE in the Mountain Royals for Hayastan and Sakatvelo. There's a second type of peasants which costs gold and is more effective at gathering gold and worse at everything else. But the peasants can't really build. Only on-foot military can build and repair. To get any mana, you have to fight around the world or amass hammer heroes. Atlanta is a play on the Norse, and then it was used as a template for Age of Empires 3. The mobile carts are directly integrated into the more expensive peasants, and you build a central economic research building. There are no heroes, but you can promote each human unit to a hero, including scouts and peasants, which makes them extra effective. Originally the mana was generated by the cities, but that was changed in Retold. And the game has a very good campaign, both in gameplay and in the story. Age of Mythology, our word. After the years of my frustrated state of someone who didn't finish the first 2 Age of Empires despite one's name, I finished AoE 4, launched AoE 2 HD to confirm my words and somehow beat the original Age of Kings campaigns. I never planned to replay AOM, or AoE 3, or buy any of the remastered versions. But here I am, with all the remastered versions, and deep into beating all the games. So of course, I had to get this, and even to pre-order it for an extreme price. And of course I was scammed. I've bought the most expensive pre-order, but they screwed up and half the customers didn't get the early access to the game. I can't even say thanks for beta testing because the actual patch came out only after I finished a half of the campaigns. The game replaced the god portraits with scam AI images. Half the originals are already weird, but these are, like, come on. At least they updated the most cancerous ones again. They swapped Tabby Bastet with a Black Panther one. The Age of series has cool decomposing bodies. If you launch the originals instead of these in definitive editions, every battlefield looks really impressive. That was removed. Plus 10,000 social credit, more funds to invade Taiwan and a cat wife with a tabby head. There are plenty of annoying microbugs, like full-screen render blinking, or your cursor can get stuck in any of its forms and refuse to return to normal. When playing on a 4:3 screen, the loading screen image is squished instead of cropped or letterboxed, just like in the extended edition. Thankfully, everything else runs fine. In this 2024 game, there's no talking animation. The issue was bad since the first date appeared. It was not fine in 2002.
It seems you are to be my salvation after all.
I am no one's salvation. I am a pawn of doom itself.
And this is not 2002 anymore. No one asks for full lip sync and mocap. Just add 2 frames of yapping. Warcraft 3 did that. Robot Chicken was smart enough to do that. All the cutscenes have stupid cel shading not present anywhere else. And they've added stupid visual novel portraits, despite the game replicating the original cinematic direction of fully 3D models during proper cinematic cutscenes. The game can crash on loading a save, and the saves menu has no way to reorder them. They are ordered by date, but by the oldest first. When you play Skirmish on a truly random map, there are no relics. They are present only on pre-baked Skirmish maps. There are no forests either, only these stupid AoE 4 fake-ass artificial gamey ugly tiny blobs of wood as a resource to exploit. The replays don't work again, just like in AoE 2DE. Why add a feature that is broken on release already? I can't find them, and they break every single hotfix. At least they do not flood the Steam cloud to the brim. It's a Microsoft game that wants you to sign into your Xbox account, but it always signs you out. You have to manually sign in every single time, and there is no an easy button to sign in. Why create that thing if it literally doesn't work? It is inconsistent across all 5 Microsoft's own games. AoE automatically logs in, misses most the achievements. AoE 2DE logs in, but is missing the achievements and disables MS mods. AoE 3DE has a manual easy login, and is missing achievements. AoE 4 has an automatic login, seemingly tracks the achievements. AOMR has a manual hard login, tracks the achievements. When playing in multiplayer, it says connection lost even when you are hosting solo. Welcome to the Internet of Shit. Now let's see if they add the online-only FOMO events. The ranked says the game starts in 0 seconds. And then it does not. The additional weight is very awkward. And then they've made the extended edition grey in Steam, just to piss on all the paying customers. Meanwhile, the pirates enjoy their games which can't be taken away from them or ruined with patches. AoE 123D Steam covers have a nice theme going, then Relic made their game cover square and blue. And now Retold just uses a stupid picture. So, how's the notoriously bad unit AI of this series in the newest installment? 3.6 AI, not great, not terrible. The villagers have resource dementia. They do not change their status like in the first 2 games, and they refuse to seek resources farther. Like, they cut down one tiny patch of trees, and they refuse to start on the nearby one. Warcraft 2 lumberjacks were seeking farther. You have to babysit lumberjacks all the time, especially with these ugly knot forests. Peasants run away when attacked, even if you tell them to attack move. It's really hard to force 10 of them to fight back against one Stone Age scout, especially when your Atlantean hero peasants can disassemble myth units. The caravans refuse to manually garrison in town centers no matter how hard you press Alt. Even building multiple farms is weird. They are not behaving like in AoE 2DE. Some peasants run around and forget about the unbuilt farms, which are literally nearby. The attack move is confused by the existence of walls, and units prioritize other units over buildings. So much so that they will move through one AI's base to another AI's base without touching a single building, and get killed in the arse by the reinforcements. A production building printing out trash will make them run and run around while being pelted with arrows from defenses. But only your units. The AI players control their units manually. The defensive stance is just broken and useless. The aggressive stance pulls soldiers to the other ends of the map. They'll pick one scout and run after it, while being attacked by other dudes. Units often forget orders and do nothing, especially when they are told to attack move. And soldiers can swap targets at will, going after some trash instead of focusing the important targets. During a manual attack, archers do the AoE circle spread, but in other times they do the stupid AoE 4 butt bumping. When you launch the game, there's no intro. And the dude there looked like Arcantos playing hide and seek with Athena. There are many changes to the core gameplay, but thankfully not all of them are bad. You can now collect and stockpile mana like normal resources with no cap. In the original game, magics were sometimes cool, but with only one use it was a very sparse multiplayer thing, especially with how some of them are just weird. Now you can cast the spells again, for increasingly more mana. The stupidest ones were upgraded, like the Deer Stone is now a free drop-off point with no expiration date. This is the best rework in this release, properly making the spells an integral part of the game.
Remove the God Power shield. When a power with a duration is in effect, other powers can be invoked by the same or another player. Multiple instances of the same power can be in effect at the same time.
They removed the Wonder Victory. It wasn't very popular, but it had its uses.
When the player advances to the Wonder Age, their myth units become significantly stronger, they can summon multiple titans, and their god powers can be recast cheaper and with more frequency. It also provides the player with a trickle of 1 favor per second.
I'd prefer to have the 5th Age as a researchable for the same cost or something, but the Wonder Age is also a fun addition. You get more titans, who can now even traverse water. And all your mythical units get stronger with age. Practically, if you play on a giant map vs many AIS, the titans lose their luster. Alone versus many guys with multiple titans each, you will lose yours, and each next one is significantly more expensive. It's way faster to accumulate a big army for that price. Use the toughest units as a shield and kill the enemy titans with the ranged units. Siege ones are surprisingly effective against titans. The new pop cap is 1000, it looks bigger than AoE 2DE, but all your units take more space, you have to take over neutral cities, and your villages are capped too. Still an improvement. There are many weird changes to the tech. You can get a market at age 2, no cowravens until age 3, though. They combined all ship upgrades into one, just like with human units. Many economy upgrades were moved one age up. Everyone gets water mythical units, removing the land and naval specializations. On the one hand, you always can have water mythicals, on the other you don't have to think for even a second about it. And there are new previously unseen synergies. The defensive buildings got further complex nerf and it sucks ass. Like, you see that the towers got more HP, but everything is super effective against them. Simple archers destroy them with no losses. Age of Castles was gameplay, but Espart's ballers ruined that. And then there's the build limit for towers and castles. You can't even build entire walls out of towers. Defenses are so weak, small blobs of archers melt fortresses. A death blob is unstoppable, defensive play is impossible. The only way to stop a death blob is with another death blob. The only thing defenses can scare is a solo scout. And since there are no defenses, you don't have to engage with the gameplay like in AoE 2. You had to watch over your units and pulling them back when you see towers or castles. You had to manage and juggle siege engines and soldiers separately. The current unit AI is still better when attacking than in elderly games despite its flaws, so now there's no reason to micro as hard as in CNC and WC2. You just create a death blob of your own and send it to the enemy's base where unit AI plays with itself against the opponent AI. No amount of defenses can harm your army. There's the Auto Scout button. It's awesome, but I still wish it worked better. Like, the scout is spiraling out of your base revealing more resources, instead of ignoring all the fog of war and running straight to the nearest enemy base to die. In general, they also generally removed some upgrades here, added new ones there, and fiddled with the numbers for the new balance. There are a lot of changes to GUI and controls, and not all of them are good. The tech tree is probably worse than it was. The original is compact, but it is cramped and shows the text in a separate window. The new one doesn't look like a tech tree at all. It shows the gods and cuts out as if there's nothing more. You can't move the bar with the wheel, or the cursor keys, or W, A, S, D. You can't click the empty scroller, can't press MMB. You literally have to fish for the tiny bar itself, that is too overdesigned to be looking like a bar, and drag it. And then the tech tree didn't even have Greek unique units, until after I've finished everything in the game and started writing this. You can't see your own choices of gods. The tech tree shows all of them at the same time. The only way to see the gods you have is to check out what you have available in your temple. If you have it. In campaigns where you get gods assigned and a lot of tech already researched and not always have a fully working temple, it's hard to look up what you have. The game is really bad at communicating what upgrades do what. Even when they are pretty verbose about percent changes, they are often vague about which units they apply to. The classic question is the horse archers. Do they benefit from horse upgrades or archer upgrades or both? In AOM you can click information button on the unit, which was made less noticeable in Retold, and see the upgrades after you already spent resources. Tech tree needs AOE 2 HD style of verbose lists of upgrades available for specific units. Even more verbose and preferably with small pictograms. You hover over an upgrade and it shows pictograms of affected units. You hover over a unit and see all the pictograms of available upgrades. Making them relevant to your current choice of gods and campaign limitations would be even better. They've added AOE 2DE style grayed out future tech and units available in the selected buildings, which is awesome. By the time I've reached the Norse portion of the campaign, they've patched the game, and now age requirements on these future pictograms are colored and poorly scaled. Maybe it makes them more readable to some people, but also, they don't look too pretty. The button to pick lazing peasants now picks all free peasants nearby. In most situations it's a great addition, but since they don't have professions assigned, it picks peasants, which were working on different tasks. There's a new addition of automatic peasants. It sounds dumb to me, so I never tried it and don't like it.
Эй! Алло! Стоп! Вы что это? И конфеты за меня есть будете?
I don't think I'm a fan of the top placement of resources and gatherers. I have to look up each time, which has more of my muscles involved. Also, it spreads the GUI, instead of keeping everything nearby. The minimap is pretty small, and with fancy icons it turns into a bit of a mess. Using fancy icons for relics is a good choice. For useless fortresses, not so much. The flood upgrade icon is entirely new, and it looks more related to agriculture than the original stupid rocks. There's no diplomacy tab, or even ratings in campaigns, so you can't even check if a color is already defeated. The main menu is based on AOE 4, and it's a mess of ugly pages and submenus, but not as big of a mess as AOE 4 itself. Pressing escape doesn't return you to the main menu, which is called main for a reason. But you can change your hotkeys. I moved my camera to WASD since I'm not a pianist. There's even a search field in the options, same as in MS Office. You can finally click RMB to produce infinite units. We waited only 20 years for it. A Ukrainian company made that amazing tech in 2001, and no one could copy it for this long. Well, actually Titans, and therefore EE already had that, but not AOEDE. AOE 2DE, AOE 3DE, AOE 4. Don't remember other games having it either. Selection packs are limited to 100 units in this game. Even when you press select all, AOE 4 can select everything. Why this much newer game can't? At least there's the AOE 3S, all army go here button. There were some changes to the civilizations. Everyone gets the new village building. I think it is a purely a Spart cow manure. It's basically an AOE TC used for booming. It doesn't increase pop cap, but it's a drop-off point for resources and can breed more peasants. In PvE, the worst it can do is waste your resources when you clicked a couple pixels off scent on a neutral city. But in PvP it removes anything unique about AOM. Enjoy your walling spam. Greeks? The lure spell is now a permanent food drop-off point. Doesn't make much sense with that 3D model, but this is the best thing that spell could have. Lure was extremely bad and slow at its job, and it was just disappearing. Now at least you can use it as another granary. And granary's icon was remade. The new one is significantly better. The heroes are trained in parallel with the peasants instead of queuing. Centaurs imitate horses. The voice director was probably really proud with themselves, but centaurs have human mouths. This sounds stupid. Their useful ability was replaced with another ability. It sends an anime volley raining from the sky, and probably does something. Colossuses don't have their wood-eating automated. With how little that heals per tree, you have to waste so much time microing it faster to produce a couple of new ones. Minotaurs now cost gold instead of food. Big nerf for PvP, probably, but it makes them much easier to rush in PvE. Instead of wasting time on slow farms or manually hunting foraging, just send your guys to mine and build 4 camps around the gold deposit. Myrmidon's speciality is changed from running on the power of racism to dealing special damage, while their armor was reduced. They are something like a glass cannon. At least they were. I think the patch nerfed them overall, because even with hero spam a stream of Myrmidons doesn't move the needle on moderate. They die extremely fast. With Hera they are free, but they also require all blacksmith upgrades. But what's even the point of them without Hera? Egyptians. You can finally queue all monuments, and their placement is now meaningful. Each major god gives them new and different properties. Hathor is replaced with Sobek, Potato, and the Age of Petzebek reigns supreme, with the new age scaling and with reduced pop cost. And they replace the old siege upgrade tech with new myth vampirism. Now your Petzebeks can even heal themselves without an army of priests. You now can cast Citadel on allies with new racial models. The weak son of Osiris got nerfed, maybe because now you can have multiple, but the mana cost is so big it's not really feasible. I'm starting to think that divine damage doesn't really work as intended. Now you can boost a lighthouse, turning it from useless to almost useless. The Sphinxes have new heads when upgraded. Looks goofy and not sphinxy, but now you can tell them apart. Norse, now only peasants make carts. Instead of queuing 1 cart and then 10 peasants in a TC with the rally flag on a gold source, you now have to manually remember to catch the first peasant and order it to build a cart near the destination. Thor's armory gives free gnomes, which optionally changes tactics a bit. If you plan to research blacksmith upgrades anyway, you can do that instead of spending your gold on gnomes. Norse were the most original civilization in the original game. Now they are remade to be much more generic. They've added the Great Hall building and moved heroes and horses there. Now Norse have spears and a second archer, who is also a hero. Jarls are demoted from anti-myth cavalry into just cavalry, and they take forever to train. The worst new thing about Norse is AoE 4 style butt bumping. Since only soldiers can build, when you pick some and place a foundation, they start to push each other trying to take a swing, slowing down the whole thing. Atlanteans. They removed the box from the flamethrowers, now they look boring. With the new recasting, Atlanta lost its bonus of many charges. But many of the spells start really cheap, and are much weaker than before. Dryads cost wood and each tree can support 5. You can unhero your Chiroballistas. Thanks. The mana generation was entirely reworked. Instead of the stupid city system, it is now generated by oracles, depending on their non-overlapping field of vision. They are also limited to 10 now. A good rework, and it adds some gameplay. To get the most mana, you have to move them out of your base to contested territories. The oracles run away from any attacks, which is dumb. Heroes produce more mana, so realistically all oracles are sturdy heroes. But instead they just break your designed mana farming, do nothing, and die, when they could just punish any stupid random scout. The auto-scouting works weird with their unique system of loitering around. Age of Mythology, Retold Legacy Deity Portrait Pack. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But by itself, they are selling already existing .jpegs, made 22 years ago for new money. And not for small money. It's just a way to replace the new AI-generated pictures of not all gods. But also, a half of the original portraits are already goofy to begin with. And all for a soap bar. New Gods Pack, Freyr. It's a new major god, who is so major I never heard of him. All the most popular ones are already used as minor gods. Ars, Hera, Osiris, etc. Which bottom of which barrel they are going to scrape next. But as an analog of new civs in AOM paradigm, a new major god brings new minor gods, new tech, new units. At least the first one per pantheon, after which they can pour paid DLCs of lazy mixes and matches. The gimmick of this god is unbearably slow research in exchange for cheaper prices. And the first map highlights it perfectly. With your booming economy you are drowning in resources, but have only trash units against your opponent's blob of level 90 elite Tauran chieftains. The map included with it is like a historical battle from the conquerors. But so far, it's just one, and it's paywalled behind a god that is available in ranked PvP. You defend for a bit with your slowpoke god, then counterattack. On the right there's more gold and you can kill dragons for more gold. Red has infinite economy, even if you kill every peasant, it will still 3D print a stream of super tanky units on moderate. The story is a stupid midquel to Fall of the Trident featuring things that are not present in the main story. The achievements are proper grindy. Not AoE 2 HD, or AOME level of grindy, but still not very fun. And there's no Steam Workshop to install dedicated achievement maps. There are only a couple of achievements for special ways to play campaigns. The rest are boring, finish the game, and grind a specific dumb action. Teleporting buildings is not something people do often, so you have to just sit there and teleport a couple of houses around until you unlock it. I did that the first time I've got to play with Kronos on Odin's Tower. I've finished every campaign, and played a couple of skirmishes on giant maps. After 60 hours of play I wasn't even near to getting 100 AI opponents, or 10,000 peasants. I created a skirmish and sent an infinite stream of peasants towards Ari's defenses and army. It took me whole 5 hours looking at that, to get the achievement the moment I gave up and started destroying the Ari's base. Since there is no wonder victory anymore, you can't save in the last second to beat multiple AIs and reload. Now you have to reload from the main menu to get only +1 AI opponent victory. If you are a spherical horse living in a vacuum, it's a great game. But you are not. This is not a new game.
This is just a tribute.
It's just copying someone else's homework. There's some decent QOL changes, some of which are not already present in Extended Edition. Some minor tweaks. Some new graphics, but not all new graphics. In this 2024 game, they still don't have yapping mouths. The cutscenes use different models from the RTS ones anyway. This doesn't offer much over AOM, and especially AOME, which has a whole new pantheon. Without new content, so far, it's not worth it more than EE, which has new content. The next DLC will add a different China, and hopefully, it will have a campaign, which will be also different to EE, like AOE 2DE throughout and made from scratch the entire The Forgotten add-on. Only then it will reach the size parity with EE. So far, if you have CD, or EE version of AOM, there's not really a reason to buy this, if you are not an Espartsballer. But then again, the online play is kinda busted anyway. Both CD and EE versions work just fine on Windows 10, and they have the same single-player content, with word-for-word the same cutscenes. So in the real life it's just a solid B-budget, tier RTS game with no mouth animations. If you have never played AOM in your life it can be fun. But if you did, and I was literally playing AOM EE since mid-2022, and then played EE and CD at the same time as this doesn't have practical value. Rich people and spurtists who had to have this day one, and overpay the release price, and be scammed with the pre-order, get what they deserve. A sane normal person without an unhealthy obsession with the age should just wait for more content and for good sales. These remakes are only as good as the new content they offer. AOEDE includes the demo campaigns, and many maps are entirely new. AOE 2 HD has a ton of new campaigns and civilizations. AOE 2DE has a ton more campaigns and civilizations. AOE 3D has at least some new civilizations, and the cards are reworked to be better. AOMR so far only lost content the current DLCs offer, to just buy NFTs from the old game you already own, and one new map, with an arguably new civilization. They really need to up their DLC game ASAP. To make personally me happy, they can just give me a small simple campaign for every major god in the game. Something of AOE 1 to 2 style, a small task plus skirmish maps, no gimmicks. 3 maps each. The first one is short and small limited to age 2, the second one is medium-sized limited to age 3, the third one is really big with many things to attack, fully unlimited and with access to titans and age 5. They've already dropped Victors and Vanquished for a fat price, which was a collection of free maps, so a simple campaigns pack DLC is totally not beneath them. And remember, nothing related to the Caster or Arcantos. We don't need stupid bad prequels or risings of Star Walkers. When I finished AoE 2 HD, I was not planning to play another one, but ended up playing every AoE. So this time from the start I just went into comparison mode. I've played the same campaign maps in AOMEE and AOMR back-to-back. I still needed the achievements for both anyway. By the time of the AOMR release I had every AOMEE achievement sans the story ones. I thought about playing the CD too, but decided against it. I was wrong, because I ended up installing it and playing it anyway. I did compare all three versions for the Titans add-on. The difficulty selector has story mode. I didn't test it, I actually never played story mode outside Painkiller add-ons, but I think it's a good addition for people who need it. I didn't change the setting and by default it is set to moderate. I will call it moderate for my level of game, but for anyone new to AoE series and its specific mechanics, I would call it decently hard. Laciate Ogne Speranza, Voice CH Intrate. It's all about the campaign maps from here on out. Instead of a small tutorial campaign, featuring Arcantos and the pirates, there's only one tutorial mission. Fall of the Trident. The first maps of the Retold campaign on moderate are actually easier than the same maps in EE on easy. But actually, it's more about the pacing. After being confused about the difficulty, I saw that it really starts to ramp up and to give AI free resources and 3D printers for units. The new Dream intro sucks all balls, it's a mess. Only after launching AOMEE and seeing that I understood what I was supposed to see here. The changes to the pacing are subtle, but they end up making a difference. They've added accents to the characters in the campaign. It's stupid, it always was stupid, and it's racist. Almost every such accent is a blackface performance. All accents are always fake and wrong, but the worst part is that they break diegesis. When people of the same language talk to each other they talk without such an accent. So when you add it to a piece of fiction it means everyone is not talking to each other in their language, but everyone speaks in English. This doesn't influence this game too much, but it's still dumb. Tolkien was right. Omens. In the Retold they named this theocrat Krios from the start. It's a starting mission, and it continues to tutorialize, despite there being a separate tutorial mission. In the Retold ballistas are given later, but overall, it's about the same as EE. Just defend the shore. Consequences. Unlike EE, Retold moved the advanced ships one age down. Originally all the advanced units were available too, but I just saw that in the current version you can't build stables or access the counter units anymore. It's a small tutorialized map. Build some units and destroy the enemy's base. There's a bonus shipwreck with resources on the northern shore. Scratching the surface.
I am mighty Agamemnon. I am tasty like a lemon.
The starting army is bigger in Retold on moderate than in EE on easy. They moved the relics to more natural places. Instead of a pack of 3, outside of any routes, they are now spread around the map. They moved the target docks closer, which with the new advanced ships in the second age allows you to end the game faster. The map ends abruptly. A fine plan. It shows the gold camps from the start. This is the first map that is noticeably harder on moderate in Retold than on easy in EE. The pink docks start with a ton of ships and then spawn new ones faster than you can kill them. And both pink and red constantly send big armies towards your base, no matter how many you turn into pigs. And the attacking blobs are big enough to melt any fortress. They also advance in age, getting only stronger. Even with a free pack of reinforcements it's harder to spread out to the second city. It's kinda better to start with the gold on the island. Then rush age 3 and create a pocket market. Other resources are plenty, so it's easier to accumulate mythical units without gold cost than to waste it on soldiers who die. Just enough rope. The relics are moved around a bit. There are 2 relics, for what they're worth in this game. The enemy is pretty aggressive on moderate, and even tries to build defenses around you. After losing it 1.5 times, because the defensive buildings suck and any fun unoptimal strategy will be punished, I went all in on gold and prayers. Minotaurs who now cost gold instead of meat are already upgraded. No need to fiddle with barracks and blacksmith upgrades. I just assembled a lot of them in front of enemies' gates and won. You can take over the enemies' farms, and there's a secret passage, but at the army size required to even survive against these 3D printers, the gates do not matter already. I hope this works. You already start in Age 3, so instead of an option to pick manticores, you have hydras to make sure you won't try to attack the towers. But some of the tech is already researched for free. The scouts are still hard to catch up to, but not nearly as impossible as in the original. And I play Retold on moderate, while EE on easy. New and improved recharging lightning can sometimes help to deal with the last scout to escape. There are more relics. If instead of just crushing the enemy you PTFO the map and build the horse, it goes into a short sneaky section, before you get a big army to wipe out the 3 castles. The section is too dark and it has a weird filter applied. The new wooden horse is edgelord ugly. More bandits. It's a tactical map, where you just attack move from start to finish. There are additional rewards for exploration, giving relics and resources. But the main force is already pretty strong. There's an achievement for training only centaurs. Bad news. You still play with Zeus as a major god, but the Myrmidons' power is not racism anymore. In this Greek vs Greek map they perform just fine, and now you can go Hera to get them for free. On the release they were fine, but I'm not so sure they can be as good now. There's a gimmick that your forces are split in 2, and they are attacked separately from 2 sides. You can pick the underground passage from the age up, or just play for a bit, the roads come together soon anyway. Revelation. It's basically an interactive cutscene. Send your forces to destroy the ram. You can do 2 optional objectives, and find some free units. Strangers. It's a short tactical linear map. There are a ton more neutral units, which is kinda dumb. If they are dead, this is where they belong. If they are alive, how were they captured? Retold sends 5 Leviathans on the river making sure no ship survives. The Lost Relic. It's another small mission. You start in Age 2 and you just defend with only barracks and no myth units. You can't create more peasants. In Retold this map has longer runways and you can see them. You can train monks, but each wall is weakened by gates. Light Sleeper. You can't garrison a chariot inside a manra anymore. You start with only 1 ballista. You can't build attack ships. Enemies' Anubites are on crack. They attack in force and really wear down your base. On release you could get an airbus and move the sword to the Guardian. By the time I rushed the bus to the goal post, the flood of Anubites and friends annihilated my whole base on moderate. Then the patch was released that removed the bird. It's Petsobek Rush again. Of course it's Petsobek Rush again. With some priestly support that defends from Anubites and sieges the enemy base, and slices, and dices, and bores. Tug of War. It's a tug rope, a payload map. AFAIR there was a similar one in Warcraft 3, but that one's better. In the original game this meme of a map ends before it starts. Here on moderate it does too, but not in your favor. To win you need to rush Age 4, upgrade chariots, and start infinite printing of chariots and Anubites rally to the place where the heroes have died. And just when you hit Age 4 send everything towards the civilian. Throw a tornado right into the enemy's blob, send undead and snakes. After which just follow the cart with your blob towards your base. ISIS, hear my plea. You get an additional relic. 2 TCS are turned into fortresses, but the enemy is closer. Their forces are more numerous. There are slight changes here and there. The final island is guarded by a lot of ships, and they 3D print more. So either try to rush the landing with these still, the 9th of September, 2024, broken landing ships, or, I dunno, think of something. Let's go. Whatever you've destroyed the last time is respawned. You need to defend a bit, then to flee to the town center. You start in Age 2. Get a decent land army to clear your island. Then a navy to clear out the pirates and ports. And then move the army to capture the crate, and defend plus move it while being swarmed by everything printed on 3D printers, on moderate. You have Setna now, he can heal and use empower like pharaohs. Under the new rules the Wonder makes the AI Age 5, so it has everything better than you. Good advice. It's a gimmick triple map mission. The first two parts are short and tactical. The last part is a proper strategic map as Hades. Almost all of the upgrades are available. You get a Kempset hero. There's way fewer relics, but there's a plenty vault. The Jackal's Stronghold. It's a naval landing map where you can take over some buildings. Now you get Ra instead of Isis and more towers. With the new rules you can go multi-citadel. Get some ships, clear shore, build production buildings and win. But you have to be careful so Amanra doesn't jump into inaccessible places. A long way from home. There are no starting towers, but you start an age later, and with some research already completed. I wanted to just play the objective and maybe go Horus Avengers. I even picked the citadels of which I could have several in Retold, but the enemy is really 3D printy on moderate. The flood of elephants was unstoppable while I was still building the economy. So I gave up. I restarted and went all in into the boring Age 3 Petsobek rush. With how they tried to make mythical units to not lose edge with increasing ages, Age 5 Petsobek only army beats even the Petsobek army from the original game. In the Age of Archers, archers are a deciding factor, and now we reach the Age of Mythical Archers. Soldiers were supposed to be a universal force that gets better with the ages and expensive upgrades. Instead we have a selection of mythical units, which only get better for free and never get outdated. Watch that first step. They replace the hoplites with spears, you get no siege, the major god is changed. You start in Age 3 instead of Age 2, and without the bronze spell. You also get a free dock now. Periodically you get some free colossuses, so if you want to use them you need to transport them somehow. The enemy is very aggressive. Even after you annihilate a half of its base it will continue to 3D print units super fast. There's no blood in the cutscene. The puddle in the corner with a relic blows up any dock I tried to build there, so picking flying units on level up is necessary to reach the relic. Where they belong. You start with all three pieces and with the priest hero. The enemy has phoenixes and spams myth units, so going Son of Osiris or several works better. There's a new enemy camp right near the right base. There's a new optional task to win before the gates to hell are open, which I did, and got nothing for it. The sound is very uneven. Son of Osiris is too quiet, while Amanra sometimes screams at a very high volume. While the improved cutscene was playing, the game said, "Your hero has died." Old friends. A gimmick map where you collect pigs and turn them into your forces. There are way more pigs and they move the cities around. The first enemy's gates have towers nearby instead of two fortresses. You don't get a free temple. North. It's the first map playing as the Norse. You start in Age 1 and this time Ajax is present. They moved the neutral cities around. Build up, destroy the enemies. The final cutscene where Amanra says, "We are being watched," is a little bit less cartoony and obvious. The Dwarven Forge. You start in Age 2 with some tech already researched. Thor gifts you free gnomes when you finish blacksmith research, so you can optimize the spending of the limited gold by focusing on the research. There are 3 relics behind a scripted scene on the right. Instead of the stupid burn forest spell you have Undermine. The second you touch the forge the enemy opens floodgates of mythicals way beyond how much is possible. Meanwhile you can have way less than 50 heroes and mythical units, and you are forbidden from building any defenses in the cave, which are weak and useless anyway. Instead of triggering that nightmare, it's better to sneak around and get one more city. In Retold they broke the ford, so you have to build a dock and a transport ship to haul your army into the Red's base, because they blocked the northern passage, and you can't attack the Red there. After I destroyed the Red's base, the game didn't even let me to actually remove the enemies from the forge, it just declared my victory. Not from around here. Your Greek units are replaced with Norse forces again. Your Zeus spell is replaced with gold. You even get fewer dudes. When you reach the city you get some peasants and stuff, after which you need to destroy the wall and run away. The Retold map on moderate is literally ultra nightmare. The Red 3D prints giants, as if it sells them like hot rakes, in your area. You can't even raid the enemy's temples with heroes anymore. There are towers everywhere, and many of the temples are protected with walls. I was wiped and had to restart it. Maybe you can beat it by rushing heroes and getting as many of them as you can, as fast as you can. But your economy is really weak in this cramped area. The way I've found to beat it is to generate mana, by fighting all these 3D printed myth units, and use the gold deposit spell to build 4 walls to stop those illegal giant immigrants, and make them pay for it. After 2 hours I finally annihilated all red temples and started to build the base. Or I could have done it faster by only blocking the 4 paths with gold deposits. In the last part you don't even need Arcantos to get to the flag. In the last script the burning trees are replaced with freezing river. Welcoming committee. Again your Greek units are replaced with Norse ones. Later sections of the campaign not having Greek units make it way less epic. Each time seeing Greek soldiers in the original game you think how these guys have traveled this whole way from Atlanta to the north through Egypt. Here it's only the heroes. The towers are now optional, the map has less snow, and you get only 2 spells instead of 3. But you get more resources, which is enough for towers and for upgrades. Basically bait the whole enemy army and kill their hero 3 times and you've won. Union. It's a small map where you do tasks to get more of everything. So much so, that this is almost a tactical map. They've added shores and made the last 2 towns parallel, so you can choose which one to do first. You don't have access to the fish at the start. The Well of Ord. It's an Age 4 siege map. You already have a lot of tech researched. There are more towns and the houses near the left border are accessible to be destroyed. Beneath the surface, you just need to gank a couple of mythical units. And you already have 5 heroes. Delaying the attack on moderate means Orange will gather an army and attack. Wiping out Orange ASAP is possible, but then the red starts to attack the gate. They changed the spells, so you can't put a gold mine on the surface from the start. But freeze is still there, and it's the key to move past the human soldiers to melt the target mythicals. Some of the relics were moved upstairs. This map shows frozen hell. After they made Greek hell more red than the original dark, this is an improvement. Unlikely heroes. Another frozen hell map. The fog of war is already open. You start in Age 3. The right gnomes get half the army, but there are more pens with prisoners. I didn't trust this game on moderate for a second, so I deposited gold on the lower road. Also the right side gets attacked fast and in force. A giant army follows the hammerhead. That group has no chance at all. The main heroes have to come and take the hammer back. The handle animation makes the gnomes bounce. Is this, like, funny? All is not lost. The green buildings are already upgraded and you get more of them. But fewer towers. Build up, defend, rush towards the goal with the big army. I destroyed everything, but that took a lot of time and a lot of units. Welcome back. I hoped they would improve the cutscene, adding more smoke, or fires, or something. But there's literally nothing. This is worse than the original. The big city is now an ally, and you get gifted a settlement and some buildings. Get some forces, free some peasants. You can even use the passage spell. A place in my dreams. It's a big siege map. The enemy sends a ton of units, so you need something that can really cut them down fast. Here as myrmidons get wiped out by attackers as fast as you can make them. In the cutscene the Trident goes through the Cyclops. That's the opposite of the weapon's function. My Medusas destroyed the statue before I finished the wonder, so I didn't have the spell. The ending is still wimpy, and there's no credits roll in Retold. It's called Fall of the Trident, because a trident fell on the Cyclops. Get it? Zombies. Overall it's still a good story, but I already heard it. Course. The Golden Gift. Brock's Journey. Cyan has closed the gates so you can't use all that gold. You start in Age 3, and can't get to Age 4 anymore. You can't research spies. There are no relics near the giant. They swapped the color of the gnome football so it makes more sense. It's a cool map with many ways to approach it. You can force through the main gates. You can complete the quest and attack from behind. You can build a dock and go through a river. You can cut or burn down the trees and attack the enemy's base. There's an island with another city and resources below your first base. There's an island with a relic in the north. Atreus' Journey. Loki replaced Thor as your major god, so no free gnomes from the blacksmith. You can build berserks, and you can build MCS hammers, so you have a real army and you have infinite mana, which means you can get as many meat giants as you want. Despite the moderate difficulty, it's way easier to destroy everything than in EE. You have some unlimited resources and can build a big army. Fight at the Forge. There's way more decor on this map. Kinda makes sense. Not all of the Age 3 blacksmith tech is researched. At least on moderate there are fewer ships per destroyed dock, and there are fewer fishes in the lakes. There are much more giants though. If you wipe out the red you don't have to wait for the timer. Loki's temples. You start with most of the tech already researched. You can't research spies. There's a fight against a dragon in the end, so it's a satisfying end for a campaign. Despite the campaign being gnome-themed, you still use other Norse units. Would be more fun if you could only train gnomes of Ragnarok, and maybe myth units. The new Atlantis. The campaign continues about where the last one has ended. Just 10 years later. But most of the characters are the same. A lost people. Now you can train horses on the first map. Instead of an army you get some heroed units. Get some more and attack the enemy's base. Atlantis Reborn. You get a free relic but they removed the pretty one from the nearby camp near the right shore. The camp now has whole barracks. You can build oracles and myth units. It makes more sense gameplay-wise, but the old way is better for the story. Significantly, there are 2 relics on the left instead of 3. Your flyers can take over the sky lift on the mountain, and the one on the small island in the south. For each fixed temple you get a behemoth. Your goals are to destroy buildings, so it's possible to just rush your goals, especially if you get some soldiers to distract the enemy. Greetings from Greece. All vaults start as red instead of neutral. Instead of secret passages there's just more sky teleporters for your network, so you can't go behind enemy lines. There are other minor changes, like only 2 relics in the North Cave. You just need to kill the general, so the goal can be rushed a bit earlier, instead of destroying everything. Nepobaby-style negotiations, invasion and murder. The cutscene is worse directed than the original. Odin's Tower. Pirate O'Connell, bad guy. MP3. After murdering Greeks it's time to murder Norse without a warning or a reason. The temple in the cutscene is moved closer to simulate dolly zoom. The shore is green instead of snowy. You got another spell. You start with satyrs instead of behemoths. You can't build attack ships in the puddle. And now you can just walk from start to finish, making the teleportation spell pointless. You even get a second charge for Odin's Tower, in case you missed the first one. Destroy or deconstruct the temples. Teleport your own ones there. The ancient relics. You get more archers, and this time you get behemoths instead of cool satyrs, which would be more useful here. You get invaded by sea and land. Yellow has 1 less city, and when I built mine on his lot it disappeared with the lot itself. Invisible enemies in the south puddle are removed. The goal is to get the relics, but the moderate AI is pretty aggressive and it 3D prints defenders. I had to get a proper big army to defend and counterattack. Ghost Daddy appears and says that the Nepobaby is being tricked. By no one. His McLovin the genocide. Just look at the cutscenes. Mount Olympus. Olympus looks like piles of dry overwinter turds, instead of the original mysterious lakes. On moderate the enemies attack aggressively, so you need those Valkyries, who somehow got to Greek Olympus, and to rest and heal. The goal is to go and reach the center. You get reinforcements and can turn them into mythical units near temples. The enemy has upgraded walls. You can't use Traitor on a shade, but you can manticore the shrine instead. The final fortress is hostile, and AI uses a lot of magics. Betrayal at Sikios. Krios' transformation fetish is not animated on par with the original. The Titan with its bright colors looks too cartoony. All soldiers in the cutscene are downgraded. You don't have the Citadel spell, but you start with 2 statues. You start with very little resources. You can't go age 4, and you don't get the birds until the script says so. You get attacked from below too. The second town is in the harm's way. Enemy uses satyrs. The Titan roams around the city then goes to your base and the time limit is just right to let it destroy everything. So, better build a temple somewhere out of the way. And then again, I've sent 3 birds and none made it. The purple is now hostile, so maybe it got them, maybe, Titan satyrs. But I was nearly wiped because the resource gathering is so slow and starting resources are so low compared to the CD and EE. And then the game offered the Egypt tutorial after I just finished a Egypt map. Cerberus. The 3 relics across the water are now 2, and you can even walk there. The last one was moved to the river. The Titan was given immortality, so you can't just gank the bad dog with mass priests. Still can destroy the gate. Better build some tanky units to let your Son of Osiris finish before the Titan attacks. Rampage. King Falstag is tiny and recycles the unit model. He is not twice as big as in the original, so the joke about a small Titan doesn't work at all. The map is open from the start. I expected this to be hard on moderate, with an immortal Titan again. You don't even have ambulances. But it turned out to be even easier. I intercepted the Titan near the first city so no red units were spawned. I built more towers around him, and not a single hero has died while standing near the healing well. There was no need to kite with the giant, I just tanked the Titan. And that's without me imprisoning the Titan with gold deposits. After playing it 4 times, 3 in the same hour, I have no idea how you are supposed to do this map the hard way. Originally, this map relied heavily on the kiting and timely usage of an ability. The new ability reload indicator is poorly visible. Instead of a high contrast bar, it's a light transparent white tint, which draws a circle. Making amends. There's still too much grass for them to say that plants grow only here. And Arcanto's VN picture has him smiling like an idiot. The map has fewer natural ruins, just to give you more free space for buildings. This hurts the storytelling, and there's not much you can build anyway. The Titan loses HP after you get the second city, but it is still immortal. You properly have to build all 4 of the cities, after which he has barely any HP left. The forest magic blocks him, but it can't be reused for mana. Atlantis betrayed. Most of everything is already researched, so capturing more buildings is not that important. The enemy has a mixed army, which, unlike the robots, is not being mowed down. There are additional places with more units to get for free. Creo's lost his pimp stick. Now there is an additional red town. Can't build on it, though. My Ajax decided to crawl around on the ground instead of running. Amanra jumped into a forest. I couldn't get her to the goal until I sent peasants to cut her out. What if she jumped off a cliff? If you go through a destroyed wall instead of gates, some spells and robots don't trigger. Follow the objectives, assemble a strong force, and rush your heroes into the lift. War of the Titans. The relic pile in the north is significantly smaller. You can actually reliably generate mana with this new system. The red is just as easy on moderate as always. After I've spread my seed, I've got an instant chronos, with 8 more minutes on the Gaia clock. And the hostile Titan refused to be kited as hard. I actually lost 2 trees. The way to slow him down is to spam sturdy behemoths and dryads. To make the things more exciting, the gate to hell is constantly pouring mythical monsters. With defensive buildings being trash, you need a very good economy to spam behemoths and dryads and something to defend against the gate spawns at the same time. In its core, it's the same flat mission, but the addition of the flood of units from the gate makes it a bit more fitting as the finale of 2 campaigns. The mushroom chick replacing a half-naked chick is a way better choice for a Titan. But now Kronos is the purple guy. The stories end with Atlantis, Isle being restored is kinda meh. Them being assimilated into Greeks was a more proper ending. I've finished everything on moderate and didn't even get a credits roll.